Hey guys, so we had to watch some movies about slavery, and today I'm going to be sharing my analysis of mainly Django Unchained with you guys. Django! But first off, I wanted to start off with the question for this vlog, which was, in reference to the topic of slavery in the United States, contrast the different approaches taken by each film. What do you interpret to be the purpose of each film? So I'm going to contrast the approaches made by the two films, Django Unchained by Quentin Tarantino and The Cause, 1861, The Civil War, a film by Ken Burns. So in the case of these two films, it's fiction versus non-fiction. So Django Unchained is a wild action movie that can serve as a form of entertainment, while The Cause most accurately represents what it was like to be an African American living in America at the time. While Django Unchained is not a 100% accurate representation of what it was like to be a slave, the themes, scenes of whippings, and different visual representations of the way slaves were treated by their white oppressive owners does hold value and truth. So, Tarantino's film had the purpose of being an entertaining and glorious story of revenge, while Ken Burns' documentary served as an informative piece of work that used archived footage and photographs and takes us back in time, giving us historical facts while using the documentary as a narrative with the intent of memorializing this time in American history. So, I'm going to move on now to analyzing Django Unchained. Django Unchained is one of Quentin Tarantino's classic films showing a story of revenge, or as Professor Gorlick calls it, revenge porn, which is very fitting to the film. This was actually the first time I ever watched the film, and it definitely lived up to all the good things I've heard people say about it. From the cinematography to the acting, it was daring, bold, and nonetheless another one of Tarantino's masterpieces. So I want to talk about the theme of revenge. The theme of revenge drives the film. The first time we see it being acted on is when Django is bought by Dr. King Schultz, or should I say, he's saved by him. And the other four slaves that were chained with Django in that scene, they get a chance of freedom. And their choices are either to help their slave master or to put a bullet in his head and go off to a more enlightened part of the country. Needless to say, they choose the second option. So this was a very important scene because Django is literally unchained. He was saved by Dr. King Schultz. Another way revenge is seen in the film is when Django gets revenge on the Brittle brothers, which is actually why Dr. King Schultz wants Django, like why he makes an agreement with him in the first place, because he wants to find these guys and kill them. He's a bounty hunter. So he needs Django because Django knows what these guys look like. Django gets revenge on the Brittle brothers. He shoots John Brittle and says to him, "I like the way you die, boy."
You remember me? I like the way you die, boy.
And that's parallel to when Django was begging John to make Roger stop, Roger Brittle, because Roger Brittle was about to whip her. And he was basically begging him, and John says to him, "I like the way you beg, boy." So as you can see, that's definitely revenge because Django gets to shoot John Brittle right in the chest. And then he gets revenge on Roger, which was the guy who was whipping his wife. And the way he gets it is, ironically enough, whipping him. He starts whipping him until he finally kills him. He shoots him like a bunch of times. So, and then the last brother is actually killed by Dr. King Schultz. And that's the end of the Brittle brothers.
Positive he did.
Django Unchained loosely follows the hero's journey pattern. Dr. King Schultz tells Django of a legend, and the legend is, Brumilda is the daughter of the god of all gods. She upsets her father, so he puts her on a mountain with a fire-breathing dragon, and it's covered all in hellfire, so there's no way to get in there, and for her to get out, there's no way. So a hero needs to arise to save her, and the hero happens to be named Siegfried. So he scales the mountains because he's not afraid of it. He slays the dragon, and he walks through the hellfire because Brumilda's worth it. So there's definitely a parallel between this story and Django walking through hellfire and killing countless white oppressive men in order to finally save his wife at the end. So we could see the call to adventure when Dr. King Schultz asked Django to go into the agreement with him to go to every plantation searching for these brittle brothers and to end up actually becoming his partner. So King Schultz becomes his mentor and he ends up giving Django hope. Django asks him, "Why do you care about me? Why do you care if I find my wife?" And Dr. King Schultz replies, "I've never given anyone freedom before, and frankly, now that I have, I feel greatly responsible for you." So Dr. King Schultz is the light at the end of the tunnel for Django. He promises to make him a free man and he actually helps him get vengeance on all the white oppressors who did him and his wife and all the other slaves wrong. So I wanted to also talk about humanity versus dehumanization. So Django is treated in a humane way by Dr. King Schultz only throughout the film. And Dr. King Schultz is the only person who can make other white folk treat Django humanely by letting them know that he's a free man. Though there are few exceptions, and even those who treat him humanely still are kind of weird about it. They're not really treated, they're kind of being fake, just because Dr. King Schultz is so convincing. So the dehumanization is seen with slavery. I mean, slavery is dehumanizing. That's the end of it. Slaves were treated as property, and we can see that. We can see that with the Mandingo fighting. They're treated like animals or objects of entertainment and forced to fight to the death, just, to make other people that are bored laugh or, get excited over. And then we can also see when the slave asks Big Daddy, "Do you want us to treat him like white folk?" And he says, no, that's not what I meant. Don't treat him like white folk. Like, yeah, he's a free man, but you can't treat him like a white person. That he's still black. Yeah, he's free, but he's still black. So you see how messed up that is? And then the slave says, "I don't know what you mean then, Big Daddy." And yeah, so basically they have to treat him as good as possible, but definitely not like a white person. So another scene of dehumanization shows the white man whipping Brumilda, which is Django's wife. And it really shows the brutality of slavery. And when she's put into the hot box and she's naked, she's just treated like property, like an object, like she doesn't matter, like she's not a human with feelings, like she's not equal because of her skin color. So the last thing I wanted to talk about were the cinematic aspects of the film / the controversy of this film. So the first cinematic aspect I'd like to discuss is the excessive, grotesque amount of blood seen in the film. Yes, this is an artistic choice by Tarantino, and it is highly, highly criticized by people. They're like, okay, this is too much, like the violence and all that. But he even states it himself that this is a movie about slavery. You're gonna have to keep it ugly. You can't just make it pretty because it's a movie. You know what I mean? Like, you have to show the ugly parts. The quantity of blood seen throughout the film makes a statement. It conveys to the audience how much bloodshed and violence there was at the time. It also adds to the drama and fear instilled in the characters every time someone is shot dead and blood spews out of their bodies. So it is an over-exaggeration, but it stirs up the audience of the film and adds to the entertainment value of the film as well. So the film is highly controversial due to the amount of violence, blood, and offensive language that is used. But it is all part of Tarantino's creative freedoms and are, at the end of the day, his artistic choice. He wanted to keep things ugly. So people criticize Tarantino's excessive use of the N-word. But he did it for a reason. He did it for that shock value to demonstrate the imprudent racism that was happening during that time. The excessive use of the N-word helps represent what it was like to be an African American at the time. While he does overdo it, because I do agree that he does overdo it, I somewhat understand why he decided to do so. White oppressors were relentless and dehumanized African Americans by using the N-word to describe them, as well as physically abusing them and keeping them prisoner as slaves. I really enjoyed Tarantino's work. It was very entertaining. It was very fun to watch. Jamie Foxx did an amazing job. Leonardo DiCaprio did an amazing job. Christopher Waltz did an amazing job. As far as Ken Burns' documentary, it was very informative and it really helped me understand what it was like for African Americans during that time. That's the end of my vlog. I really enjoyed watching these films and delving deeper into their meanings and analyzing them. It is eye-opening to see documentaries about slavery, and as much as I have seen, it doesn't hurt to see more and to really understand America's history and understand why there is still a problem with racism in the United States, and you know where the root of the problem is. And it's something that we really need to start focusing more on as a society, because at the end of the day, everybody's equal and everybody deserves to have the same quality of life regardless of your skin color. It's really not fair that even to this day, racism is a huge problem. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this vlog, and I'll see you next time.
And 100 black grapes so I can lay their hair. I need 100 black preachers with a black sermon to tell from 100 black Bibles. Why we send them all to hell? I need 100 black coffee, black coffee, black coffee.